Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review for Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 7, Marooned. The episode starts off with Rip keeps rewatching a holographic recording of his wife and son. Miranda and Jonas asking when he's going to come home, implying that his job as a time master kept him away from his family. And throughout the episode, there's like a flashbacks to the fact that Miranda and Rip both trained. Well, they were both aliases. Miranda Coburn and Rip Hunter were both aliases to protect their identities and their family lineage from their enemies. And you also find out they both trained as time masters and were caught making out by one of the other higher ups and were put on trial for both ready to be dismissed by the organization, but Miranda took the fall for Rip just because she just felt it was unnatural. Because she cared so much about Rip that she felt it was unnatural to not be able to love and have a life of her own, and decided to let Rip stay because he always dreamed about time traveling. And it was an interesting backstory, but at the same time, it's a little bit. I felt like it kind of sent like a bad message. It was kind of like how I felt about one of the episodes of Ages of Carter, where she basically only went into field work because of a man, and the woman's giving up her career for a man, and it's a little bit iffy about that. But eventually, the other conflict is that each time ship is supposed to go back to the vanishing point and get what Martin Stein would call like a quote unquote software upgrade or update their systems about changes to history or or what's going on in history. So it's why Rip hasn't been able to find where Vandal Savage has popped up in history, and then he gets a distress call from Captain Baxter of the Acheron, another time ship. Rip wants to go in and rescue her. The team thinks it's obviously a trap. It's a little bit too convenient, but Rip wants to take his chances because the trail on Savage has gone cold, and they decide that they can use the ship's navigation system to basically go find Savage. They go there. Rip takes Stein, Jax, and Heatwave, who's becoming increasingly pissed off because one of them been stuck on the time ship for so long, and also because of being pulled from Star City 2016 against his will by Snart, that he's becoming more agitated to the point where even Sarah brings it to Snart's attention, and they basically board so Rip, Stein, Jax, and Roy take the jump ship and dock it onto the Acheron, and it turns out it was a trap set by time pirates led by essentially led by a guy named John Valor. And so I guess before Rip leaves the ship, he leaves Ray Palmer in charge, and then whispers to Kendra that she's in charge of him. And while Rip and the others get captured, he apparently instigated all these protocols for Gideon to enact, just so in events of a trap. So Gideon automatically pilots the Wave Rider to fire warning shots at the Acheron, and then the Acheron chases after the Wave Rider because it turns out as part of protocol, Captain Baxter destroyed the time drive so the time pirates couldn't use the ship for their own ends, but they used the protocol to send out a distress signal to any time ship that might have been in traveling through the time-space continuum as rescue. And so they're able to fire. And so they fire. Acheron chases the Wave Rider, and they're able to fire shots in order to into the hull of the ship, basically to cut off the oxygen supply of the of whoever's left on board, and says that Valor says that he'll save his crew if he'll save his crew unless if Rip surrenders his ship. Rip refuses, so they're thrown to the brink. So basically, Rip, Jackson, Roy are thrown to the brink. Stein stayed behind, so he's basically able to get onto the Acheron undetected, beat up one of the Time Pirates, takes their beret and gun, deactivates their aiming system, I think, so they won't be able to fire, or like their power to their weapon systems, so they won't be able to fire anymore on the Wave Rider. And even though Rhea tried to pilot it manually, he realizes there is something wrong with they find a breach in the hull. Snart and Sarah go to check it out, and it turns out that they're basically, but Snart and Sarah get locked in, get trapped in the airlock, get locked in the engine room just until the breach is fixed as part of a protocol on time ships. And so in order to save them, Ray has to put on a suit. He puts on the glass on his helmet extends to a mouth guard. He goes outside, tries to repair the breach. Ray and Kendra are talking and trying to exchange, what his favorite color is, his favorite pet, kind of pet he owns, and Ray just talks about how he's glad that they never went out on that date. It would have gone terribly. And the thing is, the oxygen to his suit is nearly depleted, so he almost freezes to death. But the suit automatically guides him back onto the ship. Kendra rips off his chest plate and is able to bring him back to life by pounding on his chest, and miraculously, even though she has super strength, does not crush any of his ribs. And the episode ends with something I really wasn't hoping. I was hoping would not happen, was basically a romance between Ray and Kendra, which is, nature of a CW show. They have to have somebody they have to have two characters in love, but it just seems like, they've only been on this time traveling journey for a week or two. She just lost the love of her life, and she just got her memories back of Carter, and now it's she seems to be ready to jump into a relationship just because, and I just think it's kind of stupid. Now, a relationship that seems like they're building on, whether or not it becomes romantic or otherwise, it doesn't feel shoehorned, is a relationship between Snart and Sarah. And with Snart playing cards with Sarah, and Snart saying that not to worry about mixed temper tantrum, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna get he's just in a bad mood. Once he calms down, then once he calms down, then everything will be fine. And Sarah asked if that sounded more convincing in his head, because of the fact that Snart unwillingly dragged he dragged Rory against his will from Star City 2016, which Sarah described as Disneyland for felons. And they're the ones where the episode shows them further bonding, where they're trapped in the engine room, and Snart had tried to freeze the hole in the ship, the hole in the ship that was breached, and it has them both freezing to death. And Snart asks, given that Sarah's died before, what's it like? She just says that it's surprisingly, it would be terrifying, but it just feels very lonely and sudden, and it feels like your relatives. It feels like everybody you care about is a million miles away, and she says that even though she doesn't like Snart, that at least she wouldn't die alone. And Snart opens up about how when he was in juvie, at age 14, that the other kids ganged up on him, and one was going to shank him until Mick came to his defense, and they've been friends ever since. And and Sarah addresses that they're going to have a problem on their hands because she says that Mick's been to a dark place and it doesn't look like he's coming back. And Snart acknowledges that without him to keep Rory in check, that he's an unstable and dangerous individual. And this eventually just comes to pass when Rip and Roy are in this heated argument while trapped on the brig of the Acheron, and said that Acheron, and Rip finally just says in the heat of anger that he never wanted to recruit a serial arsonist in his mission against Vandal Savage. He's only recruited him because he figured that he and Snart were a package deal, and that he never would have recruited somebody like him, especially since he has the IQ of meat. And I think that seems to be, and Rip keeps chastising him for not being able to help get them out of the situation, and so that kind of pushes Mick over the edge, and so he decides to actually team up with the Time Pirates, and agrees to hand over the ship and the crew, and under the condition that they send them back to 2016, to the moment where Rip recruited them just so he can kill Rip, because he feels like because he blames him for why Snart and Roy are having a falling out. And so Valor punches Mick, knocking him unconscious. Rory takes the jump ship back. The jump ship is taken back. Rory takes the jump ship back to the Wave Rider with the Time Pirates on board, and they start attacking Snart and company after they get free, and Roy repairs the hull, and they're fighting off the Time Pirates. And Mick takes it upon himself to go to get the time drive from the Wave Rider, and Sarah tries to fight him and stop him, and she nearly gets killed until Snart comes to his rescue. And while on the Acheron, Rip gets into a fight with John Valor, thanks to Stein being able to set Rip, Baxter, and Jax free, and based on a trick that Miranda used in the flashback by opening up a door and having everybody sucked out of a ship during a training simulation. Rip does the same thing on the Acheron to get all the Time Pirates off the Acheron and retake the ship, and they're able to, and as a token of her appreciation, Baxter decides to, I guess, take whatever remaining Time Pirates were on the Wave Rider and not arrest Rip. And she never understood why she gave up being a Time Master, but Rip says it was because of love, because he finally found something greater than being a Time Master, is being a father and a husband, and he doesn't care about being a failure as a Time Master. He just cares about being a failing to protect his family. And she's able to give him, I don't know, I guess it's like a drive to update the Wave Rider system, and they find out that Savage has popped up in Oregon in March of 1958. So that's when the next episode is going to take place. which oddly has like him experimenting on people and Savage experimenting on people and turning them into hawk people or hawk creatures or something like that. But anyway, the episode ends with the team realizing they have to deal with Rory somehow, and Mick says he'll handle it, and he drags Rory into the middle of the night in the woods somewhere. They don't say the time or the location, and Mick feels betrayed, saying that he thought they were a team, and Snart says people change. Rory retorts that he'll always be the same punk that he rescued in Juvie, and the episode ends with Mick firing his cold gun on Rory. We don't see him actually die, but I think he might have just left him to die, but I think it's been left ambiguous that he could have survived and come back given the nature of these shows. I mean, Sarah came back from the dead. I mean, it was assumed that Reverse Flash, Malcolm Merlin, Deathstroke were killed off, and lo and behold, they came back eventually in one way or another. Overall, I think it was a pretty good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. I did not care for the Ray Kendra romance. I liked the relationship between Snart and Sarah. They definitely have good chemistry, and I liked the conflict between Snart and Rory. I didn't expect them to have the falling out like as soon as they did, but it leads to some potential episodes where maybe Rory will come back siding with Vandal Savage or something and becoming an enemy of the team. So overall, what do you guys think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.